is SportsCenter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome into a fresh new edition of SportsCenter. I'm Christine Williamson, along with nobody else. Today's top story, something a little different. We're talking about race and gender portrayals on ESPN SportsCenter. There was a study done from 1999 to 2009 looking at the ways that females and minorities were represented in SportsCenter, and the overall result, white men are still ruling our sports media. To talk about these issues, we'll go out to Christine Williamson, who's in the same exact place I am. Christine, gender bias, stereotypes, what exactly are we talking about here? That's right. It is entirely possible that that's exactly what we are seeing. The question then becomes, is it a problem and what can we do about it? Yes, we talk about girls.
Never knew there were so many girls like us. Step by step, we're rising up. If you think you got it figured, better guess again. 'Cause girls like us show up to win.
We support our minority friends. But is it enough? Words like gender bias and racial stereotypes are still used when describing sports media coverage. The problem? Content analysis of SportsCenter have shown women's athletics have consistently received between 2% and 10% of the program's content. Women's stories were also often verbally trivialized and were significantly less likely to include taped images of gameplay and interviews than men's stories. But can the women hang with the boys? It seems we can.
All right, by now you've probably heard about Monet Davis, the pitcher for Taney Little League from Philadelphia. But that story is quickly being updated. At first it was that she was a girl. Now it's that she's just a fantastic Little League pitcher. Davis and her teammates representing Pennsylvania taking on Tennessee. She got some offensive help early on.
Show me the Monet.
First inning with 2 on, Jared Sprague-Lott takes Blake Money deep for a 3-run home run. Pennsylvania leading 3-0. Blake Money, that's his name. And from there it was all Davis. And people tweeting about Davis. Here she is on the mound. She gets Robert Hassel swinging. Kevin Durant tweeting, this youngster is striking everybody out. She's a girl. I love it. It's a new day. Davis strikes out Blake Money. He's got a brother named Cash Money. And Lil Wayne tweeted. How about that? Cash Money and Lil Wayne tweeted, goosebumps, you're awesome, unbelievable. Then she gets Tyler Finley. Mike Trout tweeted, Monet Davis is straight dominating. Fun to watch.
Stephen A., my take is, this is how much I have long thought of Becky Hammon, not only as a player, but as a leader on and off the court. I can see her one day being the NBA's first female head coach. And now she's in the perfect spot and on the fast track to grow into just that. And I want to make this perfectly clear. In no way, shape, or form was this a PR move on the part of a team that does not make PR moves. The Spurs don't need to make a splash. They don't care about that. They hired Becky Hammon because they already highly respect her and they love the way she thinks. They want her as a part of their team as a full-fledged assistant coach because she basically did this job last year. I don't know if anybody noticed. She sat behind the bench for most home games last year. And Greg Popovich, who was, by the way, the coach of the year last year, asked her to attend all the coaches' meetings all the way through last year's playoffs. You know why? He encouraged her to speak up, to disagree if she chose to, because he loves her fresh perspective on basketball. You want to know why the San Antonio Spurs players have always highly regarded her? They have watched her play because she played for San Antonio's WNBA team and she practiced in their facility. They know her game.
A number of women are represented in other ways on SportsCenter, but women are far more likely to be reporters or anchors rather than studio analysts or play-by-play announcers. ESPN has made an effort for more women's sports coverage with the creation of ESPNW, which features female-focused content. Now, what about the African-American minority?
Shout out to my real Africans out there.
Despite an increasing amount of black athletes, their other roles in sports media seem to be few and far between. After looking at 340 broadcasters, fewer than 16% were people of color. They were more likely to be game analysts, studio analysts, and competition-level reporters rather than hosts or play-by-play announcers. And is media framing to blame for black discrimination?
Don't you ever talk about me!
Research has shown that black male athletes have been framed as violent, out of control, and animalistic, and that black males are consistently demonized. The question is whether these depictions of women and of minorities create the stereotype or just reinforce it. I talked to a number of African Americans and women, and although they did feel like this was a problem in sports media, the overarching question is whether or not it's a media problem or a problem in our society. Yeah, we talk about this hegemonic masculinity, white masculinity. What role does that play in this issue? Of course, yes. And when we're talking about this, we're just talking basically about something that's really embedded in our culture. Hegemonic masculinity is thought to form within a complex, interrelated macro system of social, cultural, political, and economic forces that reinforce systems of domination and patriarchy. So if we're asking SportsCenter to change, then we're really asking them to change history and culture. So I guess the biggest question there is whether or not that's fair. Yes, that is a huge question and a huge burden for sports media. What other questions do you think are really important to talk about surrounding this issue? Whether or not women's sports are actually marginalized. I just watched a game last night between a first-ranked South Carolina team against a UConn team. But is that coverage enough? Is it because there's not enough revenue in those areas? What exactly can we do? Do we split the coverage 50-50? And if we do, it's rather unorganic. I would think that has no reflection on society as a whole. But what do we do? How can we change those areas? I guess that's the biggest question that we could ask. Yes, and then one more thing that we do have to be mindful of is media framing, as you mentioned. Are we reinforcing these stereotypes? Are they being made worse? Could it be the media's fault, or is it society's fault? All of these questions, of course, are very important in this conversation. Thanks so much for your coverage, Christine.